What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the TDR show. It is rivalry week. That means we're talking a little college football, and we're going to be getting some jabs in at each other here as Michigan, Ohio State fans in the room. But we are talking Devy Risers. So what we want to do this week is we're going to give you two shows. First one's going to be Devy Risers, guys that have risen up throughout the ranks. We're going to give you five. We just dropped a giant update of our combined rankings this last month. So we kind of combed through it and looked and said, okay, what does that look like for risers and fallers? If you want more in-depth, like 5,000 word article, I just wrote that for the top 36 players that were drafted over the offseason and kind of looking at Devy risers and fallers. But this is kind of our consensus five of me, Christian, and Jay's rankings. What we're looking for, we have a quarterback, running back, and three wide receivers in the mix here of guys that are really stepping up. We got some freshmen, we got some non-freshmen, we got a 2026 class guy here that maybe could be rising up on draft boards out there. So stick with us here as we talk through our risers of the 2025 season. As we were getting our show sheet together, I realized we put way too many Ohio State players out for this week, but they are risers. So we're going to talk about the first one here, quarterback Julian Sayin.
That's what I'm saying.
Now, God. Right now, in our rankings, he is QB1 overall above all other quarterbacks. He's having a hell of a year, a Heisman kind of year when we're thinking of Julian Sayin. We talked about him preseason. We said, hey, that's the guy to kind of go after, because if he wins that job, he could really rise up, and he's done it, right? He has done it. In my opinion, when you're looking at him next year, he's probably the 102 right behind Jeremiah Smith, his teammate. This year, just for the raw numbers out there, 239 for 301, 2,800 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions only. Not really a rushing threat, but just cerebral. Just when you watch him, he knows where to get the football. He gets it out quickly. He's looked really good. The last 2 weeks, the statistical output hasn't been there, right? Before the Michigan game, UCLA and Rutgers, but they haven't really had to show anything. Like, they really haven't had to do anything here. They've been creaming teams. They got kind of a cupcake schedule, if we're being honest here. But outside of that, Sayin has looked really good. He's risen up. And I know that, I think Jay has talked about him enough. We've talked about him here, but he's QB1 overall. I mean, and that's a huge rise from someone going 4th, 5th round, sometimes 3rd round. It kind of depends out there in the Devy mocks, or the Devy drafts. But Sayin has really improved his draft stock.
Yeah, and I note as well the statistical sort of drop off these last 2 games. I'd say the thing to keep in mind here is he's playing at least last game he played without Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith, and Carnell Tate's been out for three games in a row. So really, it's kind of been the development of him with his 2nd and 3rd level pass catchers there for Ohio State, and really the tight ends as well. So it's been sort of this sort of learning experience for him to kind of get under, sort of playing with that 2nd and 3rd level guys at Ohio State. And I think that will probably help him quite a bit as we get out into the playoffs. Yeah. I think just sort of having that rapport with some of those guys. But from a stats perspective, this guy is absolutely just off the charts type of thing. So 79% completion percentage, adjusted completion percentage, 84.4%. It's like absurd efficiency here.
That's an NCAA record too. So I think that's an NCAA record, right?
Also, yes. And also he's completing over 70% of his passes that are 10 to 19 yards down the field. Even when they're blitzing, he has a huge, incredible completion percentage. Even when he's blitzing, I believe it's over 80%, this is all really, really rare when we're talking about the quarterbacks that are this young, 1st year starting, 2nd year out of high school. I think all this stuff is very translatable to the NFL. So in my opinion, I think he's kind of solidifying himself as that QB1 in the 2027 class. And when we were looking at him in the offseason last year, maybe he'd go 3rd, 4th round in Devy. But our comment was, if he hits in this offense with these players, he's gonna be a top 5 pick, maybe even a top 3 pick. You got Jeremiah Smith, but then who are you selecting after him? I think Julian Sayin kind of fits in that area right now. So his price in Devyland has kind of skyrocketed here. It's deservedly so. Like there's tons of stats here to look at that are just absolutely incredible for a second year guy. So, adjusted yards per attempt, 10.6, big time throw percentage, 5.1%, clearly way above thresholds on that perspective. Turnover worthy plays, he's not turning the ball over either. So incredibly efficient, putting the ball where it needs to go. Those warning flags like time to throw, pressure to sack ratio, not very, very low, not shining, not signaling from a warning perspective. And then PFF pass grade, one of the highest in the nation. QBR, one of the highest in the nation. And he's doing this as a sophomore.
Yeah.
So, yes, the point is he does have really great weapons. But when you have a quarterback that has really great weapons in an offense where, he needs to show that he can do it. And he needs to show that he can complete the passes and be efficient and hit and win the games. He's doing it. And you can make all the excuses of this is a better offense playing inferior competition, but there's so many quarterbacks in the past that we've seen in the past, with great offenses, with superior weapons, not performing as well as Julian Sayin has this year in year 2. So just to give you an idea, his QBR is kind of at over 90, is matching what we saw from Tua Tagovailoa in his sophomore season, from CJ Stroud in his sophomore season. And those were just like off the charts type of numbers for sophomores. So this is one of the better performances we've seen from a second year out of high school guy playing in college football. So just keep that in mind when you're seeing about this. And I do believe the numbers kind of back the fact this huge rise of him into QB1.
Yeah, no, and I think your point is correct. The thing that really stands out to me, and if you're on the podcast, you can't see this, so I'm going to explain it to you. But if you're on YouTube, you can kind of see it here. I love looking at passing depths and kind of where he's doing well at. And I love seeing, like, what you want to see is between the numbers. How does a quarterback throw between the numbers? And man, he's throwing pretty well between the numbers there, Jay, when you're looking at it. I mean, when you go through it and you just kind of look and seeing how he hits it, his deep ball, like when you're looking at what he does is a deep ball depth, 20 yards or more, 22 for 34, 864 yards, 11 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 95.9 PFF passing grade. That's incredible. 13 big time throws in that range is great. And then when you're looking at between the numbers, what he's doing, his deep ball, 14-17, 560 yards, 7 touchdowns. Now, obviously, Jay kind of alluded to it. Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate helps that. But make no mistake about it, like Sayin is the one delivering him the football. Over the middle in the numbers, 10 to 20 yards-ish, 21 for 27, 359 yards and 4 touchdowns. And in that kind of short intermediate range where he's kind of getting the football, 660 yards, a touchdown. And he's looked really good. So when you think of it from just a passing depth perspective, there is really nothing that he, at least this year so far, that has proven to be like why, like, oh, he's just doing it because he has those weapons. No, he's doing it because he was once the number 1 rated quarterback of his class, right? I think we forget about that a little bit when he went to Alabama and then went over to Ohio State. Now, the one caveat I will say this, and I'm not being a hater whatsoever. Texas, that first game was okay. He looked good that game. That was the best defense he's probably faced this whole year, right? I think we could agree on that. Grambling, Ohio, Washington, Minnesota. Illinois looks worse now. They just lost to Wisconsin. Penn State, Purdue, UCLA, Rutgers. We're not talking about a gauntlet of good teams here. So, like, he hasn't played Oregon, Indiana, Michigan, hasn't played in the playoff yet. And that's going to tell us a lot. I think that'll tell us a lot about him. And maybe if he does dip a little bit, maybe he does, or he'll rise up to the occasion, right? Like, and to be honest with you, Michigan's defense is not as good as it has been in years past, right? We don't have Mason Graham anymore. We have Mason Graham is a lot different in the middle. So we'll see how that works. But I think that when you think of elevating in a Devy rise, he's done that. I do just want to put a caveat to the teams that he's been playing. Now, however, he's still been performing. So it's one of those things where, like, hey, he's still putting it up, and that's what you like to see.
In a year where Devy QBs have just like taken a huge rock and just fallen off the charts, all of our top Devy targets, everybody we had on our top Devy, everybody we thought was going to be the top of this 2026 class for Devy, there's not many shining lights in the quarterback spectrum. And I think this goes, I mean, we've talked about this and you talked about this so many times. It's really hard to get QBs right on the Devy side. Probably, when you're drafting, you probably should push him down. This year is an incredibly great example of the reasons why that is the case.
Yes.
With a whole bunch of fallers we're probably going to talk about at some point here. And so this is one of those shining stars that kind of was going the other direction. And there's not that many to point to in this year in 2025 from the quarterback perspective.
No. So I'm not shitting on him, everybody out
Yeah.
there listening. I'm just saying, caveat, let's see what he does now. Like big
That's
boy
right.
games coming now. Like, I mean,
That's
he's
right.
got it starts this week and we'll see how it goes. All right, let's talk about another Ohio State player, unfortunately. But to be fair, I love this kid because he was my running back 1 preseason. So I got a little flack for that. But it looks like, hey, for us, he's our overall running back 2. So, and I think that's probably mine and Jay's fault when you're looking at the rankings. But when you see it, the running backs in Devy right now are kind of a mess, right? You got Jeremiah Love, you got this kid, Bo Jackson from Ohio State. After that, it's kind of a crapshoot of like, who do you like? Like, who do you like out there? And Bo has done it. Like, when you look at the raw numbers this year as a freshman, 129 carries, 835 yards, and 5 touchdowns just as a rusher, right? So when we're thinking of just him there, receiving wise, 13 catches, 138 yards, and a touchdowns. And I'll be honest, when I watched him play in high school, and I think we talked about it over the summer, I said, this kid is special. I said, he's Jahmyr Gibbs-esque. Like, he has that. He has that ability. He's explosive. And I remember telling Jay, I hate you because he is fantastic. And here I am going to fall in love with another Ohio State running back like Travion Henderson because I just like what he did. And he's just taking the mantle, right? Like, even from the first game against Grambling, he had 9 carries, 108 yards, and a touchdown. And now he's just getting the rock. He had the most attempts against Rutgers that he had because of those injuries to the wide receivers. 19 carries, 110 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's special. I mean, he is special. And we're not used to seeing Ryan Day use the freshman running backs. I guess, I mean, he used Travion. He did those things. But it's weird because he had James Peoples. He got C.J. Jonathan to transfer over there. And he basically said, no, Bo, here's the rock. Go take it. You're one of our best players. And to me, that really says something about this kid. And that's why he's risen up so far in most people's rankings.
Yeah, I mean, you hit on a lot of the points there, and no need to belabor it, but like when we look at in the Devy classes and we kind of go through seasons, every year there's a couple of freshmen that break out, and I think Bo Jackson's the top of that list this year. First year players that just go off, and now he's probably going to go from being undervalued to overvalued at some point. But like and Kevin and I might be the problem here because we got him all the way up at running back 2 in the Devy rankings. But last year, Ohio State had Travion Henderson, Quinshon Jackson go off to get drafted well, go off to the NFL, and are performing well in the NFL. Yeah. This year was really a question mark at the running back position. It really was. You got James Peoples, C.J. Jonathan, and Bo Jackson and Isaiah West as well, and they're all kind of vying for carries. In the beginning, it was mostly C.J. Donaldson, and they're using him more as like the third down, like pounded in, short yardage type of guy now. And Bo Jackson is really the RB1 in this group, whereas maybe coming into the season, maybe we thought James Peoples might have been the guy. Yeah. This guy has really, really taken over. I mean, there's so much to pick out from him. But 6.5 yards per carry as a freshman is absolutely amazing. He's got over 800 yards in his 10 games this season. And like you can see it. And I don't know if I can make the lofty comparison of Jahmyr Gibbs or what Jahmyr Gibbs is doing in the NFL right now. But what Bo Jackson is doing in Ohio State right now is pretty impressive for a freshman. And this is Devy Gold. This is the freshman breakout. This is all those things that you want to see. And he looks to have taken over and be one of the next great Ohio State backs to then go off into the NFL. I think we're talking about him in the realm of like top 5, top 6 Devy assets next year. When we're selecting players in our Devy drafts, he's going to be in that first round. I think he'd be in the top half of that first round for a lot of guys when they're selecting him. So huge breakout, huge freshman breakout for him. Love what he does. I'm not good with the comparisons of him versus Jahmyr Gibbs, but what he's doing at Ohio State is absolutely incredible. And you love to see that coming out. But the fact that he does remind you of him makes me feel really, really good about what he can be in the NFL.
Yeah, he's reminded me of him since high school, since I watched his tape. So like that's why I'm just gonna blatantly say that's why I give him that comp there. And I think too, like PFF wise, when you're kind of looking at some of the stuff that I like about him, he only has 128 attempts, but of those, 30 are explosive runs. Like, and that's where you're really going to see that explosive pop off. And you got to remember too, 19 is the most times he's carried the football. Before that, 17, 15 were kind of his top. He was getting about 13 carries a game. Being able to do that, I mean, you're looking at 2 or 3 explosive runs a game, and missed tackles force is pretty good. And he's not small. Listed 6 foot 215. Like, we're not talking about a small scat back, right? We are talking about a legitimate running back here with good size, good frame. You love what he's been able to do in this offense, and he just looks like the next great Ohio State running back. Again, that's just what he's going to be. All right, let's move over to Michigan because I cannot let you just talk about Ohio State this whole day. And we didn't mean to do that in terms of Michigan. And well, at least I didn't. I didn't mean to put like these guys on here. They've just risen up, and I think they deserve a little bit of a shout out here. My guy's Andrew Marsh, wide receiver out of Michigan. I had him as I think he was my wide receiver 9 in the freshman class preseason. But he was inside the top 10. Maybe he's a little higher. Maybe he was 7. I really liked him. And I'm going to be completely honest. There was some bias there as a Michigan fan. But I did like his tape. Overall, when you're looking at our rankings, he's wide receiver 28. And you might be like, well, how's that a riser? I mean, that's a riser in terms of where he was at like preseason. Like he was down there in like the 50s, 60s for some people. I will tell you why he's at 28 because Christian has him at 52. I have him at 16 and Jay has him at 22. So really he's kind of for us in that 15 to 25 range, in that range. A little bit on the high end there. Christian just hates him for some reason. We'll have to talk to him about that. But when you're looking at what he's done this year, 6 foot 190. Out of Texas, out of 5A ball Texas too. Again, if you were looking in Devy, if you're new to this format, one of my big things I do is you go look at Texas 5A. You just find the dudes who played in those regions, and you just see, hey, how good are they? Did they perform? And he did. This year, 42 catches, 641 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And that number not pop off the screen, but he's really come along these last couple games. Northwestern, 189 yards, 12 catches. Maryland, 5 catches for 76 yards and a touchdown. And to be honest, this Michigan passing offense has been underwhelming. Even with Bryce Underwood there, I think that they've really needed Marsh to step up. And he has, and he's definitely risen up there in the 28 class of wide receivers. And when you're looking kind of at those rankings, because we do have it broken down by that in our combined rankings here, we have kind of what we're looking at. I mean, he's a top 8 guy still, right? So he's kind of moved up in that type 8 range. But to be quite honest with you, some of the guys that are a little bit ahead of him in our rankings that I maybe, when we're kind of looking at how we should move him, Quincy Porter. We assume Quincy Porter is going to be good at Ohio State. He just can't get on the field. Andrew Marsh has performed better. Andrew Marsh has performed better than Cleek Lockett this year for Texas as well. So, he's 6 for me. He's 5 for Jay in terms of the 28 class, but he's a big riser for sure.
A big riser for sure. And somebody that's really, when Michigan needed somebody to step up at the wide receiver room, this is the guy.
Yeah.
He has really developed a connection with Bryce Underwood. I mean, Michigan's been desperate for a playmaker at the offense, and this is a true freshman that's had multiple 100-yard receiving games, and he's crushing it. So I had a chance to watch that Northwestern game. It was like 189 yards. It was the I have arrived moment for Michigan pass catchers. It was awesome, and he seems to be the guy that Bryce Underwood can rely on, and bails out the quarterback sometimes on some of the throws. So it's a really cool relationship they've developed. And they're true freshmen, so expect this connection to develop over 2 more years. This is really exciting for Michigan. I've been really loving what I've seen out of Bryce Underwood from a quarterback perspective. There's been moments where it's been, but I think he's still a freshman. I think he's got a lot of upside. I think he's still one of the really good Devy quarterbacks. The fact that, he's going to have this powerful weapon in Andrew Marsh is just absolutely outstanding. And you know what? He's putting together exactly what you want to see from a freshman, their first year in the Big Ten. This is like a breakout performance for another freshman. I'm loving what I'm seeing. He's got a 19% target share. He's averaging about 60 yards per game, 3 yards per route run, which is huge for a freshman. His targets per route run is about 25%. And there's something I look at, first downs per route run. So Bryce Underwood is going to him to get that first down, 13.1% this season, an 83.6 PFF receiving grade. and a 2.3 reception yards per team pass attempt. When you're looking at where you are at a freshman, or if you're above the line, if you're hitting those age-adjusted thresholds, he's hitting them.
Yeah.
It looks good. I'm excited about him. Sometimes you see these kinds of things kind of fall off or tail off, depending on how, you have your breakout seasons and tail off. Hopefully that doesn't the case, but he's looking like one of the best wide receivers in this class based on the production I've seen so far from him.
Yeah, I mean the numbers that stand out to me when just looking at PFF2, no drops. Like he's getting targeted and he's got no drops out there. 53 targets on that. He's just a sure-handed kid. And when you watch him play, Bryce knows he can go to him, right? And that's what we're talking about. 3.00 yards per route run, which we really like there. And then also I do like his versatility too. I mean, he's 6 foot 190. That's fine. I mean, 37% of slot, 62% out wide, excuse me. So he can kind of get put in different ways. He's versatile in terms of alignment. He's a fun kid, and I think he's going to get better, right? So I think the thing with when you're thinking of Andrew Marsh, he's going to improve. I have seen some like nonsense out there. He's going to transfer. He's not transferring. Him and Underwood are stuck to the hip here. I think they're going to be good. And I think Underwood's going to develop too. I think that passing offense is going to need to develop. I think if they get another weapon for these guys, it's going to open up Marsh and be that big play guy. And he's made some damn good catches. You watch that Northwestern game. He had some catches that won them that game. And they were tough. So Andrew Marsh to us is one of those risers of the freshman group. So now let's get a little old guys, right? Let's go to some oldies here. Casey Concepcion, right? A wide receiver out of Texas A&M. He's moved up in our rankings up to wide receiver 16. This year, 52 catches, 829 yards, and 9 touchdowns. He's the NC State transfer. That's the raw numbers. He's looked really good from just a receiving standpoint. Also returning, right? So he's the primary punt returner, 20 attempts, 398 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He is one of the best return men in NCAA football. He's really kind of elevated this Texas A&M offense at 5'11", 190. He's not a small kid. He's a pretty big kid there. He is explosive, and he's risen up the board. Like, and you look at it kind of the numbers and where, in terms of rankings, where he's at. When you're looking at the 2026 class, he's a top 5 guy. Right now, in our consensus rankings, that's kind of where we have him. We got Malachi, Tate, Jordan Tyson, Jeremy Bernard, Kevin Concepcion is right there. So he's risen up. We always kind of liked him. I think Jay liked him when he was at NC State too. And we said, okay, let's see that production. Well, he's hit it.
Yeah, I did. That freshman year was outstanding. The second year kind of tailed off a little bit.
Yeah.
So people were a little cool. But the thing is, this is one of those transfer portal smashes, right? Like move from NC State to Texas A&M and absolutely crush it against SEC opponents. It's absolutely just one of the huge risers for me this season. Even like halfway through the season, I was sort of like, how high do I want to put him in my rankings? When we did our 2026 wide receiver rankings, he didn't make my top 5. If I was to redo those now, he'd probably be 4.
Yeah.
So Denzel Boston, Jeremy Bernard, he'd probably be right above them and right behind the big 3 guys for this season. That's, to me, was a huge rise because you never know with the transfer portal. You never know how it's going to go. We've seen a lot of guys move and it not go that great. And so he just, you mentioned over 50 catches, 800 yards, 9 TDs so far. He's done really, really well. Yeah. Now my wide receiver 4 of the 2026 class from a fantasy perspective, really showing that he can do what he needs to do in the NFL. And you're seeing it from the draft pundits out there, jumping into mock drafts database, looking at seeing what these mock drafters are doing. You're seeing Casey Concepcion, Kevin Concepcion go in the first round now, first or second round, usually from that perspective. So he's also getting the recognition of the NFL from that perspective. It's been just a great ride. And then, just being a part of this offense has been pretty good. The team's been really, really good. There are other good wide receiver players on this team, but he's still dominating. He's still getting a ton of share. So, 26% target share. His targets per route run is up to 30%. So super, super efficient. Yards per route run, 2.86. First downs per route run, nearly 15% there. A great yak per reception, up to 7.5. Good PFF receiving grade at 18.4. And his reception yards per team pass attempt is up to 2.47. So around 2.25. This is a great year. The third year player. So in a draft class where you're going to have a whole bunch of fourth year guys and fifth year guys. This is one of those going to be maybe one of those early declare guys
Yeah.
that actually looks good on those age adjusted basis. So he's going to be a big riser, I think, in people's processes. In my processes, he rised up this season with this great performance this year.
Yeah, you're right, and I think when you're looking at it, I think him and Jeremy are very close in my rankings. I was just checking right now to see, okay, where are those guys at? The thing that I wrote about, because I'm doing a bunch of spotlights. If you don't sub to our Substack, I do like a spotlight for the 26 class every week. I've been doing them every week, and I did Casey last week, so I kind of looked at Concepcion, what he does well, and the one thing. So we just said how great he is. The one thing that I get a little worried about is his drops. He's got a lot of drops, and while I don't necessarily like, I'm not one of those people that says drops really matter, right? Remember the Jamar Chase can't catch the footballs in NFL like drops conversation. I think that he does have some concentration drops and he does have some red zone drops. And that concerns me a little bit. I think that he's such a dynamic player. That's great. And the one thing I wrote about that I really truly believe is just how better he got like after the catch as a receiver, creating separation. And he's doing it with nuanced route running now. It's not like, when we think of like what he was his first couple years is like, oh, this dude's just fast. And he's just making guys, he's just blowing by guys. He's just using that athleticism. Now he's using a lot of his skill-based stuff. He's looking at his route running in and out of breaks really well, uses leverage really well. Those are the things you like about KC. And I think like for a class that we were not excited about, he excites you now. You're talking late first, early second. I think I had him my big bird early second a few weeks ago. He might sneak in there at the back end of the first, depending on need and depending on what the quarterbacks kind of play out, what those quarterback situations look. But he's definitely a riser. He's risen up there.
Yeah, I agree. One of the good risers in the 2026 class, in a class where like we were worried about coming into the year. I don't think a lot of those worries have, stymied. I think there's a few guys, maybe like a Mekhi Lemon, that looks a lot better, Carnell Tate, but we thought Carnell Tate was going to be pretty good when we start the season. You just needed to show it. And this guy has been a huge riser, and he's right up there in the mix based on the performances this year.
All right, let's go to one last riser that we're going to do on the show today. Malachi Toney. Let's talk about our true freshman out of Miami. Absolutely explosive, right? He's up to wide receiver 13 overall in our rankings. And when you're looking at the 28 class, so he is a true freshman here, he might be too low. I think like when you're looking at him right now, maybe he should be one, right? So DeCorian Moore is there, Dallas Wilson, Vernell Brown, and Malachi Toney is right there. I think he has a case to be number one overall. Jay's the low man on him, just so everybody knows out there, just a little bit. He's at 4, we're at 3. But when you're looking at what he's done for Miami this year, 71 receptions, 844 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Dude's been dynamic. When you think of kind of what he was able to do, he kind of popped off in that first game against Notre Dame, 6 catches, 82 yards, and a touchdown. He hasn't slowed down since, right? So he's looked pretty special. Probably having one of the kind of a la of Xavier Worthy freshman year kind of seasons. Like, hey, this kid's explosive. What is this kid? Now, I hope that he can kind of duplicate that. I think that he can in Miami. They've shown to get transfer quarterbacks, right? So we've seen that. I think if, anything above Beck, like I know people like Carson Beck, but I think if they can get another guy in there, he'd look really good this year. So Malachi Toney sitting at 5'11", 190, explosive, might be the fastest wide receiver in the ACC or maybe college football. I mean, he recorded 40 at 4.30, right? That's what they said in high school. So if he has that at his size, we're talking a first round talent.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it when he's a lot of times, like you said, he's the best athlete on the field for most games, and you could just see it when you watch the game. So this guy has all the makings to kind of be that superstar guy that kind of goes in the first round and does well. You'll notice we have in this Devy Risers, we've had a lot of young players, and thinking from a Devy strategy perspective, like yes, we're picking out all these young players because just like when you play Dynasty, the young guys are the ones that increase that value. And you could get a little bit too far in terms of, how far you want to push these guys up. But, what we're trying to do is we're trying to target these guys when they're very young, kind of show really, really, really good stats, really, really good production, show the NFL potential, and let you guys know about them. And Malachi Toney just is having just an incredible year this season. The thing to think about here is this was a reclassification guy.
Yeah.
This was a guy that should be playing high school football right now, and he's dominating in college. That signals up the warning bells for me, the alert bells right away, because this guy's doing it against, third, fourth year players that have been around, have played a while, and he's doing it as at this young. This is absolutely incredible. When you talk about early breakout years or early age breakouts, this has got to be up there for you. And he looks good. And I think he's having a really good season from a Devy perspective. I don't know if all of the people that play Devy are really in tune to what's happening here, and so you still might be able to buy him a little bit cheaper than you might think, even though he is still having a great season. So just to give you a few stats, I always do the stats, but 2.65 yards per route run, at 28% targets per route run, and 13.2 first downs per route run. I hit those every time when I talk about stats for wide receivers. Those are kind of the efficiency things. He does get a really good volume too. He's 26% of from a target share perspective. And then from a reception yards per team pass up 2.43. All these guys we sort of talked about from the wide receiver perspective, all those numbers were kind of fairly similar because they're all putting up really great numbers. A good amount of volume in the offense, very efficient when you get the volume. And you see that across all three of these guys that we've talked about on the Devy risers for these wide receivers. So this guy, if you took him, you probably got him really low in your Devy drafts. We're talking like 5th round, 6th round, something like that in your Devy drafts, maybe later. He wasn't like the first round wide receiver in supplemental drafts either for freshmen either. He did have a good spring, and people were starting to talk about him, but it wasn't like thought of as at the very top end of the class because of the reclassification. And reclassifications don't always work. Sometimes people take them as sort of warning signals, or like it doesn't always happen right away. And so the fact that he came in, he should be playing high school ball, and he's playing college ball and dominating. This is a really good signal from him. I'm excited to see how he develops over the next couple of years.
Yeah, and so it was kind of cheating because of that reclassification. He was only a 3-star because they reclassified him, and the recruiting service didn't have enough time to kind of get him up to that 4 or 5-star, what they saw of him. And they're like, oh, wow, we missed this kid. That's why he was going a little bit later, right? In terms of like value and Devy and all those type of things. And the other one thing I wanted to point out too, like you're right about all the stuff on PFF, 89.7 receiving grade as a freshman is ridiculous. But the other thing too, 90 targets and no drops again. 0 drops, just like Marsh.
What's with the drops, man?
What?
Every receiver. We're doing drops, man.
I love it, okay? Because I just love the fact that like this kid's getting targeted up the Yahoo, right? He's the wide receiver 1. And I mean, in the last game against Virginia Tech, 15 targets, 12 receptions, 146 yards and touchdowns, 0 drops. And just this kid is just getting the football. He's sure-handed, he's explosive. And yeah, he definitely is up there. I think he probably maybe should be a little higher in our rankings too. So that is our risers. That was the good news. Guys that are really, really doing well out there. You got anybody else off the top of your head that you wanted to kind of mention? We didn't obviously get into every single guy. Anybody else out there? Lazier Brooks from Alabama is a good one. He's kind of risen up. He was another 3 to 4-star out there with like Malachi Toney. We've seen some other guys kind of come up a little bit higher. We've seen Wesco kind of go, but he was already pretty high. There's not a ton of guys at the quarterback position. Maybe Dante Moore. We've mentioned him before as being kind of a guy that's maybe could be the QB1 of the 26 class. Any guys out there that you have a shot on? I know we didn't prepare for this, but I like throwing you some questions that you're not prepared for.
Yeah, Dante Moore, I think Ty Simpson, Fernando Mendoza were all kind of risers this season, which especially Ty Simpson and Fernando Mendoza, I was not very high on. Mendoza was getting a little bit of buzz before the season, but Ty Simpson, not as much. Those have been kind of big risers for me at the quarterback position. I think Justice Haynes.
Yeah, that's good.
Ahmad Hardy. Those guys are pretty interesting. The 2 freshman Oregon running backs, those have been pretty good from risers. Makai Lemon is my absolute biggest riser because I really do love Makai Lemon. He's my wide receiver 1 for this year, for 2026 class. I think he's something special. I think he's going to be good in the NFL. Carnell Tate was a riser for me this year. Lots of fallers as I look through the list here mostly, but those are some big risers. And then who I don't know about tight ends, whatever.
I'll give you a sneaky one. I think a
Yeah.
guy that has maybe helped himself a little bit this year, like you mentioned, a lot of good ones. A guy that like was really high is coming in his true freshman year, has battled stuff. Zachariah Branch has not been bad for Georgia. And, when you're looking at what he's been able to do, 63 catches, 638 yards, 3 touchdowns. Obviously, the return, when you're looking at what he can do in the return game, hasn't been amazing, but kickoffs he's looked okay at. He has a role there. We know that. He's going to have a kind of a special teams role. I know a lot of his catches, and I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but I know a lot of his catches are behind the line of scrimmage. He does get kind of targeted. This ADOT's not great. When you're looking at kind of what he has to do. Like right now, his ADOT's 3.3. So he's not getting pushed the ball downfield. But at least he's not bad, right? At least he's pushed it and he's actually produced a little bit. So I'm not saying he's a huge riser, but I did see him out there in some mocks from some industry guys and some people that really like him. And I could see a team really liking his versatility, his explosiveness and all that, and him going day 2. So Zachariah Branch, shout out to you, because I think that you've kind of solidified yourself a little bit as possibly getting drafted day 2 and not just a track guy, right? Not that's that guy that couldn't develop at USC. So those are our risers out there in terms of the guys who have risen the most. As always, if you want our rankings, our articles, all of that, go subscribe to us. You can go to the Devy Royale Patreon page. You can get all of the access. If you just want the Substack, I do a lot of Devy content on there. I know there's not a lot of Devy content out there. So if you want it, we are here to give it to you, for you, all of you guys. And Jay's got all his numbers. I don't understand it all, but he's got his index. He's got all his numbers out there for your college guys too. So we appreciate you guys. Stick with us here on the next episode. We're going to be doing fallers. So after you listen to this one, go listen to the fallers episode. And some guys, Jay's favorite thing is to be negative. He loves it. He thrives in it. So definitely go watch him cringe through that entire episode, or listen to it as we get through.